Hello, I'm Stephen Fox. I'm a bankruptcy lawyer. I do Chapter 11 business reorganization work representing business debtors that want their companies to survive, to grow, and to thrive. And I also represent creditors seeking to protect their interests in Chapter 11 business reorganizations. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I represent clients all over the country. I only recommend bankruptcy if it is the best solution. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about COVID-19 and its impact on Chapter 11 reorganization. First, when times are tough, when there's a disaster or something like that, that doesn't mean you fold everything down and you go away. It means you look harder, you look better to find ways to succeed. If times are tough, that's an excellent time to reorganize. And conversely, when times are good, that's also a good time to reorganize. It is not the times, it is the people. It's the owner of the company. It's how much faith and self-confidence the owner has in himself or herself, in his or her employees, in his team, the attorney, the CPA, and others. How much faith the owner has in a higher power, how hard the owner is willing to work, and how much confidence the owner is willing to put into the attorney and the entire team. So let's talk about some companies. Shortly before COVID-19 hit, I was representing in Chapter 11 in the federal bankruptcy court in the South a company that had a failed business model. Basically, it was constructing not so good single-family residences. The company was losing money. It couldn't pay its creditors. Its creditors were quite upset. It had a failed business. We looked at what was going on, and before filing the bankruptcy, we made a decision. The company would stop building single-family residences, and instead, it would go into residential paint work, painting the insides of apartment buildings and homes. The debtor had the staff, had the experience, had the tools to do it, and it's a good, profitable business. COVID-19 hit. No one wanted to let any of these painters into their homes or into their apartments. So we worked on this and we figured out a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy. First, the long-term strategy was to stay with paint work, but to switch over to commercial paint work. Profit margins aren't as high. Expenses can be a little bit higher than with residential paint work. But on the other hand, there's a steadiness to that work, and you can work with your cash flow because you know further out in time what your cash flow is going to be like because you know what your contracts and your bids are. So those are good things about commercial paint work. We needed a short-term strategy because we knew it would take a year to two for the commercial paint work to really take off. So with COVID-19, there was a wonderful opportunity. It started with my client putting emergency teams in place in several different states in the South. And whenever a customer or an employee of a national department store was someone who was found to have contracted COVID, the chain store chains would shut down the particular store, and they would send in a team, such as from my company, overnight to spray the entire store. Spray it with some fluids that would make the COVID germs be killed. So that worked for a while, and then the stores came to my client, my company, and said, "We want your help moving inventory." Here was the problem. Stores were opened, there were customers, but people were afraid to go very far into the stores because COVID-19 wasn't well understood. So the national chain stores were moving all of the merchandise and products that were bought the most up to the fronts of the stores so customers would come in, get what they needed, and then leave. So my client spent the next year moving inventory, rebuilding shelves, moving all sorts of product from one place to another. After about a year, this work was no longer as profitable for various reasons, but by that time, the commercial paint work had taken off. So we dropped the inventory moving work and focused with commercial painting. COVID-19 hit this country, but it didn't lay us out. There are creative, hardworking people that made things work, that made businesses work despite that disaster. And I have to give a lot of credit to the owners of that company who were willing to work hard, willing to work long hours. They were willing to put faith in the team around them, and they were willing to have the self-confidence in themselves that it would work out. They protected their employees, they protected their families, they protected their company. They did all of the right things. Let me tell you about a second company, and this was a very tough case. A company that was in the business at the time when COVID-19 broke out of manufacturing in kitchens very high-end pastries and pies and Danish and other similar bakery goods. And they would sell these bakery goods on contracts to very high-end hotels and high-end restaurants. And they did a thriving business. The company was in trouble for various reasons, but they had a great business model. However, after I put them into Chapter 11 within a matter of weeks, COVID-19 shut down this country. What happened? They lost every single order. They had no more customers because the high-end hotels were no longer ordering high-end pastries, and the high-end restaurants were largely shut down as well. This could have been a major disaster for the company. We worked over the phone together. We figured out what could be done. And we figured out pretty quickly within a matter of hours that this company had to go from making high-end pastries to high-end customers to making good pastries for what I'll call low-end customers. So the salespeople went out to every 7-Eleven, every Circle K, every AM/PM, every convenience store for miles around the bakery kitchens. And they talked to these stores, and they got the owners to agree to pay money for what I'll call middle-level pastries. And starting the next day, the customers would receive, and the customers are the stores, they would receive really delicious pastries, freshly baked, and their customers went crazy over them. Their customers bought them, and the stores wanted more. Was this the best solution for my client? No, because the profit margin wasn't as good. Was it the solution that worked for that point in time? You betcha. Because it kept the wholesale bakery in business. While other bakeries were going out of business, this one was making money, it was paying its bills, and it also confirmed a Chapter 11 plan of reorganization that it could perform under, all despite COVID-19. What does all this tell you? Any company can be saved. The owners have to be willing to work hard, work with a team, think creatively, and have faith in oneself. What makes me different than most of the other attorneys out there who do Chapter 11 work is that, unlike them, I do not believe that having a confirmed plan of reorganization means you've succeeded. I believe you have to fix the company, all of its problems, financial, accounting, bookkeeping, mechanical, process, manufacturing, maybe psychological. Whatever the problems are, they have to be fixed. At that point, you can then have a successful plan. What's the use of a successful plan if you have a failed company? If you have a failed company, you have nothing but a failed plan as well. I've got over 30 years experience handling business reorganizations for both debtors and for creditors. If you think your company may be on the road to bankruptcy, pick up the phone, call me, let's talk. Email me, whatever you'd like. My next video is about what takes place before the bankruptcy is filed, what I want to know from you, and probably what you want to know from me. Take care.